and welcome to another Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is BryanCPSteele, and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shoes. Hi, everybody. So today is going to be kind of a fast one because in the Week in Bryan section, you'll learn why it needs to be fast. I know that's weird. I'm going to make you stick around to find out why it goes by quickly. But I did want to go ahead, as I mentioned in the last episode, that I really am liking this 5 ways or 5 things or 5 tips, or I'm liking this series. And I think I'm going to do maybe a couple more inspired by either your guys' comments or things that have come up in the games that I play, so forth and so on. So today, as you clicked on the thumbnail, so you know what I'm talking about, and if you watched last week's episode, I talked about that I kind of wanted to do a 5 ways, a list of 5 tips or whatever, episode based off of NPC No-Nos. And now, obviously, caveat, your table, your call, it's your game. So anything I say, take with a grain of salt in the fact that I'm just giving you ideas and thoughts and, maybe helpful advice if you've run into, you're about ready to grab a new NPC and bring them into your game. Or maybe you're in a game and you recognize one of these NPCs, or your DM uses this a lot and you're like, yeah, maybe I should point him over to Bryan's channel, which you should anyway, because like, share, subscribe. But basically, I just, I've been doing the RPG thing a really, really long time. In some cases, DMing professionally, and in some cases on stage and on, live streams and things. And there's just a handful of things that I think I've seen come up multiple times in various games, sometimes by people who I've played with for, 20 years or more. Maybe not in the same game, but people who I've known for a really, really long time, but this is part of their DMing style. And I personally find these 5 things in particular avoidable troubles, things that could rankle your players. And of course, like I said, your table, your call. If it works for you and it works for your group and your players are happy and you're happy and everybody's having a good time, tell me to, just be gone and don't worry about it. Wait until next episode and find something better to do with your time. Because I'm not the end all be all, and I definitely am not going to tell you how to have fun at your table. I'm just here to give some helpful advice if you're, opening your doors to the, mass populace or whatnot. So let's just jump on in after I take a sip of my tea out of my Gen Con cup. Which Gen Con was this? Does it say? It was 2023, like 2023 Gen Con cup. Ever since I started doing the collector's cups, I've gotten one every year. And they're just in my cabinet. They're some of my favorite cups. Okay, so these are 5 NPC No-Nos. And NPC No-Nos are, apart from sounding silly, just 5 things that when you introduce or use an NPC for a prolonged amount of time. Obviously, a single sessions NPC that does this is no big deal. A single, maybe they're only around for a one little tiny plot line. Or this is more for the NPCs that are going to be a part of the cast for a while. They're going to be with the player characters for a while. They're going to be counted on by the player characters to be able to get, information from, scenes with, aid from, or whatever. That's what these are all about. Obviously, you could come up with this amazing story as a DM and have a character that fits one of these no-nos and you're like, God, but that's really integral to what I'm doing. Obviously, that's fine if you're building your story around it or whatever. These tips are more, these no-nos are more for the NPC that attaches themselves to the group in some way for an extended period of time. Keep that in mind when I go through this list, which, by the way, this list is not in any particular order. None of these no-nos are stronger, better, worse, or more despised, or none of they're just me putting words to the page, ideas out of my skull, and wanted to get that out here to talk to you. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the 5 no-nos. Number 1, the DMPC who is better than everybody at the party. So as a DM, especially if you're a forever DM, and meaning that you're always the one behind the screen, occasionally you get inspired, you get these ideas for characters that you wish you could play in other people's games. So you go, you know what? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this character, and I'm going to put them as kind of my NPC in the game. There is nothing wrong with that. The DM is a player too, and sometimes you want to get that player character itch scratched by putting them in the game. That's absolutely fine. Where the no-no comes in is making that player or that character better than everybody else at everything. Is making them 5 levels higher, making them, like in a leveled game, or if it's a game that doesn't have levels, just has skills, suddenly that guy knows how to do everything. It is I want to use the word infuriating, but that means like anger, and it's not angering. It's disappointing when as the players, you're sitting around the table going, okay, cool, the DM has just put together this plot, this puzzle, this obstacle or whatever, and we're trying to figure out how to do it. We're trying to figure out what can be what can be accomplished. How do we get past this? And this NPC steps up and is like, oh, I can do this. I've got this ability. Oh, I can do this. I've got this skill at blah, blah, blah. It's where it stops being about the players at all and just basically is about, okay, what's the next thing that the NPC is going to do? What is the next thing that the NPC is going to urge us to ask him to do because he's so good at it? And I think it is frustrating for the players. There's nothing wrong with having an NPC that is more powerful than the party, as long as they don't flaunt it and make the players rely on them. Obviously that guy's going to take care of everything because he's the one that's got the 6 billions and everything, or whatever. When the players can just look at that NPC and know that that's going to be the crutch, that's going to be the, we're going to go pick. Eventually, they might get to the point where they're like, we're going to go pick this fight because, I keep in my head. I want to keep calling him Mark's character from last episode. We'll call him Chungus. We'll call him Chungus. There's an inside joke, not Chungus, but so I can't do it because I'll just sit here and laugh. The character in question, the NPC, known as Chungus. I'm losing it. If the NPC is just so good at everything, and I hate to use the term Mary Sue or Marty Stew, but that is really what they end up being when the DM creates that character to just exemplify everything they want this character to be, and then uses them as part of the party. Obviously, a character like that can show up and do a thing or be a part of a scene or whatnot, and that's not a big deal. It might be frustrating for the players if it was like an important moment, maybe a major bad guy that they were fighting hard against. Maybe one of the player characters got knocked into death saving throws, or like this hard fought thing, and then every turn in the initiative when it comes up to this NPC, this NPC is going to do, here's 3 attacks, and every one of these attacks does a ton of damage, and it feels like the DM is robbing the players of their victory. They're still getting to overcome the challenge, but they aren't really a part of it, and that's not okay. You in any instance, you don't want to ever make the players feel like they are not contributing to the scene. That is one of my no-nos. Is what I say that I call it the DMPC plus, is where it's a player character that the DM has created to be an NPC, but he's just way better than any of the players, and it's frustrating for the point of the players. You wouldn't invite a new player to the table and have them bring a character that's 5 levels higher than the rest of the party. Don't do that to your party. Don't do that to your players. Very similar in a similar vein is number 2, and that is the chosen one trope. NPCs, obviously there's lots of plots out there. A lot of, you protect the golden child, or, this is the inheritor of the god body part, or whatever's made them at the center of some kind of prophecy, or made them the creature that's going to bring about the next Armageddon, or the next Nirvana, or whatever. If that entity is an NPC, that's fine, except for the fact that if they're going to be with the party a long time, you are making it so highlighted and spotlit on this NPC that it's not about what they do, it's about what they are, and that you as player characters are glorified bodyguards. You're glorified you are co-stars in your own show. And there's an episode at some point where I may talk about, player character no-nos, but in this case, NPC no-nos, this one is, if you create an NPC that is so important to the plot and so important to the metaphysical future of the realm, or whatever, anything that makes the players and their characters feel like an afterthought, or feel like we don't even really need to be here, this guy's here. That's why I said why it kind of goes hand in hand with that first one. This is more of less to do with the DM wanting to play this character. It's just the DM creating an entity that makes the player characters sit in the green room. Basically, they're just there to see what's the next thing that this NPC's existence is going to be. And like I said, there's no problem with having a super important NPC, or maybe you have to escort a super important NPC from point A to point B, because then you have a purpose, you have a reason for being, you have a reason for especially if maybe this chosen one is a child, something that can't protect itself. You are now suddenly very important because you have to take care of this person. But if it's the king of the realm that is a psychic, half god, half dragon, whatever, the player characters are going to find themselves just basically going, all right, let's fast forward to the next time this guy needs to be someplace, or the next time that this big mega prophecy comes together. There's a fine line between an NPC who is important to the player's plot, the player's narrative, and an NPC that is the narrative, and the player characters are just kind of tagging along. That's in my opinion, that's the no-no. Is you want to make the NPC integral to what the players are doing, not the players integral to what the NPC is doing. That makes any sense. Number 3, I've got them sort of stair-stepped. I mentioned a king. Number 3 is I think it's a no-no to have a long-standing NPC that has crushing, overwhelming authority. Like literally someone who commands a fleet of ships. Unless, of course, the game is designed that way. But like for the average, we are a group of people, a group of adventurers seeking adventure, seeking quests, seeking missions, whatever your game is. If your NPC is the king, it comes with such a giant, such a giant level of responsibility, not only for that NPC, because I'm sure that king, unless it's of course some kind of plot where like the king is sneaking away and doesn't want to be in the thing, so he's not able to use his authority until like the big epic moment or whatnot. But like, if an NPC that has crushing authority technically over the player characters, there will be instances where the player characters will have to make a decision, and that is to either be loyal subjects, whether it's members of the church or members of this guy's kingdom or crime family or whatever. They'll have to make the decision of, are we loyal and we're faithful to who, we bend the knee to this authority figure, and then in that case they're kind of, this is like kind of similar to that Chosen One thing, where they're just kind of waiting for the NPC to tell them what to do. And that's not terribly okay, because that means it's the DM telling the players what to do with their characters. It's a very fast narrative railroad, where suddenly, you're hanging out with I keep using the king. You're hanging out with the king as the NPC, and he goes, we need to do this, I've got the magic sword, I need to take the magic sword to the neighboring kingdom and stab the dragon in the heart, because as the king, that's my responsibility, or we have to do this. And then someone in the party goes, okay, well, send your army. And they're like, no, we need 5 people to do this. So five small agents that can slip between the cracks or whatever. And then those players need to, they put themselves in a situation where they either become enemies of the state and go, there's no way I'm going to go sneak into a dragon's lair and go stab it with this magic sword. Or they just bend the knee and go, okay, cool, we'll do this because you're our king. Even if that wasn't, and maybe the king even comes up with a plan. It's when the authority gets in the way of what the player's agency, that their characters, what they're able to do, or it forces them into a position where they're like, okay, either we do this or we are outlaws. We either do this or we no longer, my character is a loyal member of this kingdom, and you as a DM are putting me in a position where I have to either just suck it up and not go on the mission because I don't, it's against the morality of some of the other players or something like that. It's, NPCs can be very awesome motivators, and definitely quest givers. There's nothing wrong with a king saying, my loyal subjects, I would like you to do this thing, it needs to be done. But you need it to be the characters making that choice, not being told, do this. Because then when that NPC's authority comes crashing down on them, you run the risk, especially if it's an NPC you want it to be an ally, because you run the risk of putting those players in a position to now suddenly go against what, maybe one of the players has got kind of a problem with authority. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to just be railroaded into the dragon hunt. So no, we're not going to do it. Now the king, is the king going to maintain his niceness? Is he going to stay all cordial, or is he going to force them into it, or name them as enemies of the state? And while on the surface that may sound like kind of a fun plot, it's only a fun plot if you planned for it, if you knew that was what you wanted to do, if you knew that was the goal of this narrative, was to put the players in that position and maybe reveal the fact that this king is a user, or maybe he's being whispered to, worm tongue style. There's ways to use it without it being, well, the NPC is, got this authority over you, so you're going to do this. That's the no-no, is basically just using an NPC's crushing authority to just command, just to command the players to do things, and put them in a position where they have to go against the ideologies of their characters in order to just make it work. And then I think number four is a little easier to do if you use real dice rolls. If you're using dice rolls for your NPCs, and I know that there's a vein of thought, a train of thought that you will sometimes use, where they're like, yeah, my NPCs don't ever make skill checks; they just do what the story needs them to do. I think that's a very dangerous sort of precedent, because it also means that everything that your NPC does is scripted, and your players will quickly figure out what that NPC does and doesn't do all the time, every time. You need to make sure that there's some dice rolls in there, some randomness, some ups and downs, because otherwise you fall into the category of what the number four NPC no-no, and that's that your NPC can do no wrong. And I don't mean that morally. I don't mean like, they're just morally above everything. What I mean is they go to open the door, they can open the door. They go to fight the bad guy, they kill the bad guy. They, someone asks them a question about this bit of obscure lore, and they know about it. It is, if the NPC becomes the absolute Deus Ex Machina of, if it needs to get done, we know that they can do it. Or, I know I've seen games that do this. I don't think I've played in one, but I know I've seen games that run like this, where all the player characters at the table try to do something, or don't have the right skill, or something along those lines, and rather than the DM being okay and adapting to their failure, they have the NPC step up and do the thing. Well, my story says they've got to get through this door, and all 5 of them have broke all their lock picks, and they're all terrible at it, and they've been beating on this door, and everybody's frustrated. Okay, Chungus will come over and immediately do the thing. You don't want your NPC to be the safety net of the player character's lackings, because not only will that teach them that they never have to worry about actual failure, because this NPC is there to catch them, but also they will never, player characters during, now I'm going to get in a little bit of a realism thing. If you were part of an adventuring party, and over time, the deficit of a particular angle. Now, I'm not trying to say you should make balanced parties. I hate that concept. It's not necessary. Make your characters fit to the narrative, make your characters fit to each other. Do not make your characters fit some kind of slots on a peg post. Well, we got to have the striker, we got to have the tank, we got to have the... No. Do we have a healer? It's nice to possibly want to cover some of the bases, but it should not be a requirement. And in a living world, as these players gain levels, they should recognize if their team or party or whatever group you want to use, their coterie, if they realize that there are holes in their skill sets, if there's parts that they lack, one or more of those players, as they gain the abilities and skills and levels and whatnot, they will adapt to be able to do these things. They'll go, you know what? We don't have anybody who actually knows how to lock doors or unlock doors. That's easy. You just do this. We don't have anybody who knows how to undo traps and unlock doors. And that last adventure, we were just, we got hosed so many times because of this. So one of those players, when next time they have the opportunity, might go, okay, I'm going to be that. I'm going to take up the slack and learn how to do this with my character because we need it as a group. And that kind of character growth, that kind of party growth won't happen if there's an NPC that can do no wrong. Because they know as players, there's a part of them that will say, you know, I could take another level in this class and get this awesome new power, or I can take a level in Rogue because we need somebody to be able to open locks and disarm traps and things, and that's a fast way for me to get into that methodology. And if they know that Chungus is there to take care of this, they're almost always going to go with their that first choice rather than the lived-in world choice, because this dude's there to catch up, to take care of all the stuff that they're lacking, and that's because, you know, that particular NPC was built as a safety feature to make sure the players don't get stuck, or make sure that, you know, the story always goes on. And while that's a very noble concept, and if your table is set up to be like, we're story first, we have a standing rule that we never do death saves. Somebody gets to 0 hit points, they just are unconscious unless they've said it's okay to die, or whatever. That's up to you guys to determine. But in a regular game where threat and challenge is actually on the line, and potentially characters could fail at things, having a do no wrong type of NPC on hand will become the kind of crutch that that player character base will eventually become reliant on. In a 4B, like a subset of that, is also NPCs that have more money than, you know, more money. I can afford anything. It doesn't matter, because part of a lot of these games, the economy, the wealth of the player characters, you know, a lot of times they're doing these missions. You know, in Shadowrun, you're doing missions for Nuyen to upgrade your equipment, or to pay the rent on your fancy apartment. If there's an NPC that has millions of Nuyen just at their disposal, and they're friends with yours, friends of your characters, you end up running into that situation of, okay, well, man, we need to get a private jet or we need to get a flight from point A to point B, and the storyline's like, okay, well, you got to have your license checks, you've got to have, are you going to smuggle your weapons in, that sort of thing. Oh no, we'll just have Chungus, corporate Chungus over here to spend all the money and just get us a private jet so we can skip all that. And that's the situation, is basically that's a financial do no wrong, and it completely circumvents part of what the game is about. And that's the why are you doing these missions? Why are you negotiating with Johnson's? Why are you haggling with the paymaster at the king's court over how much gold you're going to get? Why are you even looting the corpses if your best friend Chungus here can just pay for everything? So that's that do no wrong is got multiple aspects, multiple facets to it, and at the end of the day, it is that NPC just can't be the one that makes it so you're failure proof. Because through failure we learn. Through challenge toward failure is where excitement comes from. If it's just, we know we're always going to win, and we know we're never going to die, and we know that Chungus is going to pay for everything that's expensive, or if there's a way that for money to circumvent the problem, Chungus has it covered, that is going to get in the way of your collective narrative. And then the last one, and I think this is, I saved this for last because it is the hardest to avoid and the easiest to fall into. And that is for your NPCs to put on a show. And I say that Because for all you video gamers out there, you have been in situations where your game pauses and you watch a cinematic, where you watch a couple of NPCs interacting. And I'm going to say this, even as somebody who writes some of those dialogues, a lot of times video gamers just get bored and go, kind of tap the A button to get through this. We get it. He's the bad guy. You're the good guy. You hate each other. Can we move on to the fight? Can we move on to the next thing? A button, A button, A button. And there's not that big of a difference at the RPG table. If you get two or more NPCs that are just having a conversation with themselves, yes, you are going to get that. You're going to get information. Information is going to be imparted upon you. You're going to get to see possibly a cool scene, but your players also could end up being bored and being like, "All right, we get it. You guys are talking. You're hating. You hate this guy. You hate that guy," and it can almost deflate the importance of an interaction. Let's say that you're in a scene where, like, you're about ready to learn this big, huge, massive, epic plot moment, narrative fact, and the DM hides it behind 5 minutes of NPC dialogue. The chances of your players zoning out, getting up, that be the moment they need to get up and go to the bathroom, they're checking their phone for whatever, goes up for every second that you're not involving them. And an NPC dialogue chit-chat is a fast way to get someone to go and just zone out. If there is an important piece of information, something you really want them to know, they want to get out of that instant, is you can narrate it as a cinematic, where rather than going through a scripted dialogue of blah 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 blah, rather than that, you boil it down to the two characters talk for several minutes at great length, and everyone at the table, you guys, you can tell that it's a heated argument, and at the end of this argument, this narrative bomb is dropped where Prince Chungus explains that he has a illegitimate half armadillo son with the elven queen Chunga, and everything erupts into madness and craziness, and the whole courtroom is upheaved because of this revelation, and everyone's yelling at each other. What do? Because that last piece of information, they're going to remember that if you just give it to them as part of an explanation rather than a dialogue. And part of that also is, it gives, if you do a dialogue, there are going to be lots of times where certain players and certain characters might interrupt that dialogue. And if you're reading from a script, or you're doing a scene that's like, well, hang on a second, let's get through this, and then you can interject. That's not how things work. You just narrated that this happened. If you're gonna actually build the scene and have the conversation, include the players. Maybe have Prince Chungus look at one of them and say, you're from the Elven lands. You know how amazing the armadillo folk are. I don't know where I'm going with this, but bear with me. Can you tell this cretin that of the elegance of the armadillo people, or whatever? Get the players involved, because that's, again, one of the biggest things about these games is the interaction, the back and forth. So if you don't want them to be directly involved in a long process, just narrate it out, give them the information, and then let them react. And let them, boop, here we go. The scene has begun. If it's a big moment that ends with a dun 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 and a combat begins, then you narrate the scene. You maybe drop the after the two of them have screamed and Prince Chungus and Princess Chunga have yelled at each other. And right at the very when you didn't think that it could get any more tense, Captain Guard Chungor, you seeing a theme here? Captain Guard Chungor fires an arrow from the balcony, and it strikes Chunga directly in the shoulder, and she falls down. Roll initiative. There's ways to make it exciting, and not just have two NPCs sitting there talking to each other. Because if two NPCs are just talking to each other, your players you're going to lose them. You're going to lose them, and anything that is like deeply important or noteworthy, they're less likely to hang on to that because they weren't involved. They weren't part of it. They thought that it was one of those scenes in a video game that you could just A-button your way through. And that's not to say that you can't have NPCs talk to each other. You just have to make sure that it's not a prolonged, scripted engagement. Scripting in RPGs generally leads to problems, in my opinion. And that's my number one no-no, is just scripted NPC dialogue is going to be very difficult because you can never really guess how your players are going to react. Wanting to make sure that this conversational exchange happens, you might have that one player that as soon as Prince Chungus says something about the armadillo people, one of the characters is like, oh, my second cousin's brother's stable boy was eaten by an armadillo person. I fire a fireball at him. Unless you're a DM that is like, no, stop. This is a moment that you cannot, you can't avoid. This is one of those cinematics. And then again, you're taking agency away from your players. There's ways to deliver the information narratively with impact that doesn't take a long time and makes it so the players don't find themselves bored into doing a thing. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. So yeah, those are my 5 NPC no-nos for today. Like I said, I'm trying to move this episode pretty quick because I've got stuff to do. So if that was all you cared about, please go about your day, go make your awesome NPCs, and avoid all the no-nos, and enjoy yourselves. Like, share, subscribe, do the stuff, tell your friends. Let's make this channel bigger so I can do some more stuff with you and them. If that's it for you, we'll see you later. See you next week for another 5 ways. I know somebody put one into the comments, and I don't remember what it is, but we're going to do another 5 tips, 5 ways, another list of 5 something next week. I just don't know. And then in 2 weeks, I actually have a very cool, actually in 2 weeks, I think I might have a convention. I think I have MomoCon in 2 weeks, but soon I actually have a very cool unboxing that I'm going to tell you about. One of my longest running friends and one of my personal DMs made a card game, self-published it, and has a link for buying copies, and it's cool. It's a fun game. He's been working on it for 15 years and got all the art made. No AI, thank you. And it's fun, it's neat. It's set in another one of our friends' role-playing worlds, like his D&D world, and some of us have a character or two in or at least character 2 or a couple of references from our old games in this card game. So here in a couple weeks, I'll do an unboxing and tell you all about it, and let you run and go get copies while he has them, because obviously he did a limited print run to see how it goes, and I think it'd be pretty awesome if you guys check that out. So if that's it for you guys, we'll see you later. If you're into the Week in Bryan, it begins now. I'm thinking about starting getting a title plate or something that's the Week in Bryan, to separate the 2 pieces of the video, but it's not that important. Okay, so on a personal note, things are good. Things are doing all right. Going to the gym again 3 times a week. Haven't really slacked out. Feeling good about things health-wise. Got to make some. I'm fermenting my own kimchi currently. I made 8 pounds of kimchi that's over there on the other side of the studio fermenting. Smells fantastic if you're into kimchi, and I can't wait to be able to eat it, but it's still in that sort of getting good process. Also made some pickled daikon, and tried a couple new recipes this week, just to, do the good things, in my opinion. Other than that, my son got a new job at a new joint. He seems to like it. And my stepdaughter graduates, she's already graduated, but has her actual graduation party next week. So, it's weird being old. Hobby-wise, I did mount my Evo Light from what is it called? From Game Envy. It's awesome. It is fantastic, but I did not actually use it for any painting because I have been too busy. We'll get to that in a second. But I'm looking forward to, I got some Battletech minis in the mail that I actually had completely forgot that I ordered. Apparently they were back ordered for a really long time and they just showed up. So it's like, oh, neat, cool. Fun models that I wasn't expecting to have. So I'm eager to get some paint on those, to match the rest of my Ghost Bears. So hobby-wise, that's really it. I have definitely been slacking off on the hobby side of things. Playing, I played in my wife's D&D game last week, or last weekend. We had a good time. It was a social episode, not really a combat episode, but more than anything, we got to know a little bit more about kind of the direction I think she wants us to go. We are dealing with a bunch of high-end vampire count type, people. And our next session is a masquerade ball that has an auction attached to it. And one of the items up for auction is this super fancy vampire or anti-vampire magic item that we're being hired to get our hands on in some capacity. And we are not a heist team by any stretch, so we did a lot of planning and a lot of us deciding that we may just have to try and get it afterwards. We'll see. It'll be an interesting event, to say the least. But that's really the only role playing I've done. I've done a little bit of playtesting of minis games. The new faction document for the org for Xeogenesis is about ready to come out. So I'll get a lot more games in once that hits, and I'll have a lot more information from playtesters when that hits. Here in about, I'm going to say probably about a week or two, I'm going to have some updates to the Warzone playtest stuff after Alex and we've got some stuff that we're talking about. The current wave of playtesting has had a lot of deeper philosophical conversation about where the game should go, and how it should get there. So Alex and I have got some good conversations ahead of us. That's about all the gaming that I've done. Work. Now, first off, one big, fantastic, awesome thing about work is all 3 of the manuscripts for the Intergalactic Heroes crowdfunding, so the Player's Guide, the Game Master's Guide, and the Throne World Saga sourcebook, have all now been written. They are 2 of them are completely edited, but they're all written. They're ready to go, words on page, and it feels amazing. We're also starting to get some art assets in, so that product launch is getting closer and closer and closer. And with the legendary books, showing up in physicality to people, and the Armory PDF just went out, so the physical book will be headed off to the printer soon. Return to the Living Dead headed off to the printers. With these things, all of the Evil Genius Kickstarters or crowdfunding campaigns kind of coming to a close, it feels really good to know how close we are to being able to launch the Intergalactic Heroes one. So that's going to be that. I mean, that's been my baby for 3 years, and I can't wait for it to I can't wait for it to be a real boy. Still no word on Secret Project or the gag order for marketing. The companies involved are both kind of big, so I'm sure they're probably figuring out when's the best time to do it. I don't know. But when I know and when I get the opportunity, you'll know. Warzone, Xenogenesis are both going great. I have an adventure that I'm working on, or a section of an adventure I'm working on for Dungeon in a Box, which is, it's weird because it's been a long time since I've worked on an adventure that is kind of a piece of a larger puzzle. So there's a lot of things that have happened before and will need to happen after. I haven't done the middle part of an adventure for a while, but it's very well scripted out as far as like the outline goes. So here pretty soon I'll get a chance to actually put words to page on that in a big way. Get that first draft off. That'll be cool. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, the other big news, and hopefully this time next week, I will be able to tell you that my manuscript for the Shadowrun novel is done. I'm down to my last like 6,000 or 7,000 words, a couple of days worth of work. It's really shaped up. I'm very happy with the direction. It's coming together exactly like I felt that it would. Like, you know, how the stories will feel independent, but all part of the whole, and collectively, each one tells, kind of shines the spotlight on something cool that each one of those World of Shadows characters have done, and maybe things that they've alluded to on screen and whatnot. So I'm very excited for people to read this. I'm almost more excited for the actual actors who played these characters to read it. Hope that I did them justice, but also just knowing that it's done, and that John and I can start planning for what the next one's going to be in a little while. But just be able to put this to bed and say it's done. Happy day. I'm hopefully this time next week I'll be able to look at you and go, we're all good, baby. It's off to the editor. So that has been my work in my work in a nutshell, and the biggest reason why I've been so busy and why I haven't done any hobbying and whatnot is because a bunch of stuff has really kind of gotten to the end of its tenure. You know, it's been a deadline on my calendar for a really long time, and I've been able to start crossing some things off, which is exactly what I've wanted to do. So without further ado, I'm going to get back to it. This video is going on a little longer than I anticipated, but that's fine. That's fine. I love you guys, and that's why we do this. So until next week, when I do another 5 ways to do something, please be safe. Wash your hands. Get your shots. If you're in a state that needs to be doing its voting, like soon, do your voting. Please vote for intelligence and not hatred. Just be safe. Wash your hands, get your shots, wear a mask. Don't lick doorknobs. Try and leave every room a little happier than when you got there. And hopefully everything will be all right. Until next week, have fun, stay safe, and play some games, because you know I will. Bye, guys.